Hi, it's Jen from Shabby Fabrics. I'm here to introduce to you the Creative Grid face mask template. Leave it to Creative Grid to build a tool that we need. It's the perfect product for this moment. Who knew that I would ever be filming a video about something like this? But again, thank you, Creative Grid, because this just makes the process faster. This has become a part of our reality that if you want to go into certain stores, travel on an airplane, you're required to wear a face mask. So let's just embrace it. This is what we're doing, and we have an awesome tool to help us do that. And we can choose some really cool fabric to just make the most of it, so that at least if we're going to be wearing a mask, it's fabrics we like. Maybe it says something about our personality. In fact, I made one for my daughter who's a barista, and it says coffee, and there's coffee cups, and it's fun. She's got polka dots on the back. It's reversible. So hey, if you're going to wear a mask, let's make it fun, right? Let's go over the template first. I want to show you what the template is capable of. It's small but powerful, and it's going to make the process accurate and fast. All right, let's look at that. The Creative Grid face mask template makes 3 sizes: small, medium, and large. I love that. The one that you're seeing here is actually the medium size, and it fits me. I'm 5'3". I think most people, for most females, probably a medium, unless you're really, really small. Maybe a small will work, and probably large is for most men. So 3 sizes. I also love that it talks about the suggested elastic size. So they give you a range because it's a personal preference. You know, when you get your elastic, you kind of want to, you know, here, this is cut to 6.5. That's the size I wear. Of course, you're going to kind of like, well, that's where that looks. You know, you kind of have to find your way to figure out what your favorite elastic size is. And my guess is you're probably going to be making multiple masks. So maybe once you make your first one, you try it on, you're like, well, that's a little bit loose, that's a little bit tight, and you adjust it. But they at least give us some place to start with. And keep in mind, that's per side, that length. We have gone to great lengths to get plenty of elastic into the building, and so you'll be able to find the white braided elastic. I like that kind, a little bit higher end, because when I touch it with my iron, it doesn't fail like some elastics can. All right, so we've got 3 sizes, we know that, and we have the awesome grip on the back. Creative Grid's rulers are known for having this grip. And what's nice about that is as I'm cutting, this thing isn't slipping all around my table or moving away from the rotary cutter and resulting in a miscut. So thank you, Creative Grids, for always putting that grip on the back that keeps the ruler stabilized and stationary so that I make a good solid cut. We have a grain line, which is helpful, but not necessarily essential. I think you could probably put this any way you'd like, and you're going to be able to make your face mask. We have the 1/4" seam allowance defined with kind of a frosted area there. I don't know if you can see it, maybe a little bit better on my hand than on that white background, and a dash line there to help you visually understand where that 1/4" seam allowance is. As quilters, we know where that is, but maybe you're joining us for the first time. Maybe you've just recently bought a sewing machine, and if that's the case, thank you. You are part of the solution of making masks for friends, family, and your community, and we really are grateful that you're joining us. And please subscribe. You know, if you've bought a sewing machine recently, what else can you do with that? We have plenty of ideas for you, and be sure to subscribe, and that way when new videos come out, you'll know all about it. What else can I tell you? I think we just need to use the template. All right, let's make another coffee time mask. Now, if we were going to use the large template, it's actually quite simple. We would be tracing around the outside of that, and there's nothing else really to do. You'll be doing front and back. So let's talk about that. I love that the masks are actually reversible, and there's logic to having different fabric on the front than the back. You know now that that was absolutely the side that's on the outside. So as you take the mask off, and maybe you go somewhere else, but you have to put it back on, you don't want to put on the side that was to the outside. You don't want to put that towards your face. So if this is what I'm wearing today, maybe I go into Costco and wear my mask, and then I'm going to go do something else and the mask comes off, but I'm going to use it again later on in the day. I want to know that that side is the side that should be out versus flipping that around and putting that toward my face. It's just a better thing to do, to always know what side has been out. And of course, you'll be washing those on a daily basis. So that's why I think you're going to be making plenty of masks, right? Reversible makes it fun too. Today I feel like displaying coffee. Tomorrow I want to be polka dots. So that's fun to have both. Hey, if you're in the high risk category, or maybe you're in an area of our country, or maybe on an airplane where you're like, I just want one more layer of protection instead of just 2 pieces of fabric, that's where the fusible interfacing comes into play. Again, we've gone to great lengths to get the best quality interfacings. We have it both in the Pellon and the Bosal. We have the Pellon in the white, and in the Bosal we have the black. These are fusible interfacings. What that means is on the back of one of your 2 fabrics, maybe the back of my polka dot fabric, I'm just going to iron a piece of fusible interfacing on there, and now that's just attached to my fabric, and I'll proceed with the mask making process as normal, but now there's just one more layer of protection. It's a personal preference, and just know that we have that available as well. Not required, but maybe something you want to do. All right, you're going to fold your fabrics in half, and I recommend you fold them right sides together because that's how you'll be taking those to the sewing machine. So we've already said that if you're going to be doing the largest size, you'll simply put your template on there, any side, any direction you want, and just simply trace around that or cut around that. It's easy. It's easy to understand that. But what about if we're going to be doing the smaller sizes, a medium or smaller, and those cuts are in the inside? Well, let me help you through that. It's actually very simple. The main thing you always want to make sure of is that your fabric is square. So let's say you have just a scrap piece of fabric and you're like, well, my edges are kind of wonky. Well, fold it right sides together, and that's where I like to just bring out my other rulers. I'm going to start off with my 45mm rotary cutter and just make sure I have a nice, clean edge because we're going to be lining up our ruler against that. I shouldn't call it a ruler, that's a template, right? But we're going to be using that. And I believe I've already squared this one up, but I hadn't squared that one up yet. So I'm glad I got to show that to you. So let's look at that. Let's make the medium. All I have to do, might be easier for you to actually see it on the white. Let me show it to you on the white. You can't see it very well on the black. Like I said, I squared this one up already. Do you see how I just slide that to those dashed lines? That's another feature of the ruler. You have dashed lines there, are in the corner. That's it. Now I'm off my fabric here, so I need to turn it or get a bigger piece of fabric. There we go. Now I'm on my template fits. I'm going to be able to easily cut around it. I have brought these in cute little mats. Why did I bring them in? If you're going to use rotary cutting, which I recommend, especially if you're going to do any kind of quantity of these, you're going to need to have a little rotary mat so you don't cut your table or whatever you're cutting on. Now you don't have to have a rotary cutter. You know, I am going to square up that edge real quick. That's not as square as I would like. Let's just square that up. A nice fresh edge to start from. You can absolutely trace around just like this. Remove the template and cut with scissors. Nothing wrong with doing that, right? Got some scissors, but I love the precision of a rotary cutter and the speed. We're going to cut around. This is a 28mm rotary cutter, and I don't usually use this size, but I have found this turn right here to be easier with a 28mm rotary cutter than a 45. This will do it. It's just a little awkward in that pivot right there. I love this 28mm, and the little this is a little 2-pack replacement blades. You know, it's just nice when you're working with small projects to have that thing, and it really came obvious to me that that was the right tool for the time when I grabbed got a chance to use this template. Because of course I grabbed for the rotary cutter I always use, and I was like, ooh, that turned right. These outside two cuts were no problem. But as I came here, I was like, ooh, that blade doesn't necessarily like that turn, and this had no problem. So, all right, that's two, right? That's one side of that mask. We're going to sew those together. Let's repeat the process real fast. Everything's lined up. We know we squared that up. We're going for the medium again, of course. Up. See how I just naturally grabbed for that one? In fact, let me cut it with it. I want you to see this. Let's go with that. I'm in the moment. Let's go. See, this cut's not a problem. It's just this cut right here that can be just a little awkward. Right there. It's doable, but you can see it's awkward. I'm going to switch real quick to this rotary cutter. And you can see this kind of just blows past that area. It's a non-issue. So, fabulous rotary cutter. I'm not downplaying this. I love it. It's my go-to. But in tight turns, get a little rotary cutter. You'll be happier. All right, let's see how we've done. Now, I got lucky. I forgot to mention that if you're using directional fabric, be careful of the orientation. This is, of course, the front, right? That's the front profile. So if you're using a directional fabric, you want to be sure to orient your fabric so that the wording or the motif is the direction you want it to be. All right, we're right sides together with both of these pieces of fabric. What we will do next is we will go to our sewing machine. I'm using 50 weight cotton, 40 weight, 60 weight, whatever you've got will work. This is just a neutral piecing thread set. I happen to have white up there and white in the bobbin. We will start here. We will start backstitch once or twice, sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around this arc, right? That's why they drew that there. And you'll end here. We'll do that here and here. Let's do that right now. Notice I did a little quick back stitch there. Now I can just, because I want to secure that, but I'm going to go ahead and keep going, right? There's really kind of no reason to cut my thread. I'll go back once or twice. There we go. Okay, so now we have our two halves, and I don't want to call them front and back really because it's a reversible mask. There really isn't a front or back, so white side, black side, I guess that works. So let's look at this real quick. This is what we have so far. That's right, that's what we're building, that side and that side. So you know, there's an extra thing that how cute. It says wake up. That's helpful. Like I need that, right? And coffee on that side. It's fun. You never know what you're going to get when you actually sew this and smell coffee. This is so cute. One thing you can do, and I know they talk about this inside this template comes with some instructions. Let's look that up real quick. They talk about snipping here, which always eases fabric and makes it easier for it to turn. So they have a couple, you can just do little V's in there, just like this. That works. You can just do snips. Just make sure that whatever you do, you're not cutting through the threads you just worked to put into the mask, because you can, if you're not paying attention, pretty easily go a little bit too deep and cut those. And now, of course, you need to cut some new fabric. All right, so that just, what that always does, it just makes the fabric more likely to be able to turn through. Let's talk about seam allowances real quick. Let me put that out of the way. One of the things they mentioned in here, or maybe it was actually on the video, that they've done a video on this. They talk about a Quilters Ham, and I'm like, I don't even know what that is. And I got a chance to look it up. It's a really cool tool. We don't carry it. Most people don't have one. Basically, what I've discovered is it's really nice to press the seam in one direction. And there's a way to do that without what's called a Quilters Ham or sewing ham. And hopefully the overhead camera can see this, because it's a little bit on the inside. Maybe I can do it where you can see it. But I have the fabric kind of pulled up so that it kind of creates this arc and allows me to get my iron in there. Hopefully you can see that. Because I can't do it with this flat, right? I kind of have to have this up in the air in order to press that seam to the side. By the way, I really recommend that when you make the mask, you pre-wash your fabric. You want to get shrinkage out of the way, and when you wash fabric, well, shrinkage happens. This is cotton fabric. Those fibers come just a little bit closer. It's more protection for you, and it gets any shrinkage out of the way, because you don't want to make it fit perfectly and then you put it in the washing machine in the dryer, and next thing you know, it's too small. So there's every reason to go ahead. It gets sizing out of the fabric, you know, just all of it. So go ahead and make sure you give your fabrics a good hot, don't be shy, get them washed, put them in a hot dryer, shrink them up, and then use them. All right, so you can see how that worked nicely to go ahead and press that to the side. And that's a quick way to do that. All right, the other side. What are we going to do about the other side? Well, we know that we want to have our seams moving in an opposite direction. So if this is the direction we go with here, what we want to, we don't want that over here, because look how all the bulk would be over there. We want to go in the opposite direction, because this is the top of the mask and this is the top of the mask, right? These will be nested together. This goes this way, so let's make sure our seam goes this way. All right, let's press that real quick. Again, I'm sorry for the little, I'm not trying to hide from you. I want you to see what I'm doing, for sure. But I have to kind of pull it up to deal with that curve there. And I'm not shy. I press, I steam. You don't need to baby these fabrics. All right, now we can see this is moving in an opposite direction. The first thing I'm going to do, you see that seam and that seam? The first thing I'm going to do is put a pin in that. You certainly want your mask coming together there. I'm not going to pin on this side. I'm going to pin on this side, right along the seam, and keep my pin a quarter away from that 1/4 inch seam track. That way that pin can stay in position when we do that portion of the mask together. Now, in the instructions included with our template, one of the first things that they actually recommend that we do is sew these side seams together. So we can do that. I want to go ahead and follow those instructions so that I'm showing you the same thing that they're showing you there. So we're just going to go a 1/4 inch seam allowance from here to here. You could put a pin in there if you feel you want to. You don't want anything to shift. It's never wrong to pin, that's for sure. Let's go sew that. Okay. And then again on this side. At this point, you'll want to cut your elastic. I like to cut mine about 6 to 6.5 inches, and that's what I've done. So their instructions mention having that elastic. Take those pins out. I guess we can always pin that center later. That step's coming up is to go ahead and put a piece of elastic. That's what they're showing you here, right along that seam you just created. Now they have you pinning it. I have found pinning elastic to be a little bit cumbersome. It's difficult and sometimes it bends my pins. That's why I love to have just this little mini Wonder Clip. It just holds it there, clear side to the bottom, that'll ride smoothly along my machine. And I'm not having to put any pins there and try, again, potentially bend my pins, because I like having good quality pins. The patchwork pins are a little bit more delicate, and it's very easy sometimes to bend them, and I don't want to do that. So let's do the Wonder Clip again on this side. Put that clip there. And again, I should have just kept that pin in there. We want to absolutely find that center point. We'll put our pin back. Now you can see how these line up nicely. I'm going to pin there as well. If you don't want to put pins in there, or maybe you've got interfacing, you know, you can choose to not use pins. But remember, you know, as the sewing machine needle goes in and out of this fabric, it's creating little tiny holes. But once you wash everything all up, all of that kind of shrinks away. It all kind of just melds together. All right, we're going to go from here. Definitely reinforce over the elastic back and forth a couple times. You don't want that coming undone. Coming up to the point of the mask, making sure that those interlocking seams stay put. Then we'll pivot and come back down. So we'll start. That's my elastic. I'm going to run over that a couple times. 1/4 inch. Here we go. So what I'm feeling for is that that doesn't roll back like this and make a weird bump in the front of your mask. You don't want that. Now to keep that flat, I will use this tool. It's called the purple thing. It's optional. Again, it's not a have to. Let's stop right there. That's kind of the point of the mask, right? And I'm just going to do a little pivot right there. As I take the clip out, I'm just going to kind of pinch it with my finger, and I can see it sticking out right there. Back up multiple times on it. Okay. Now, while you're here, let me just show you, because it's easier with you really close up. What they want you to do is, see how this is sticking out? Just scoot this inside. Scoot this inside. You're still running along that seam on the inside. There we go. And let's clip again. See how it's easier? So basically, you see this bulk in here? I don't know if you can see it. That's where the elastic's kind of hidden right now, because that's the beginning and all the bulk in between, and that's the end. So we'll do the same thing. Scoot it inside. Don't get a twist. Keep it nice and flat. It's running right alongside in there. Kind of push it in. And we'll clip again. Now what we're going to do, and I'll pin a little bit, we're going to start sewing. We'll stop. Well, actually, we'll come here. Stop. Pivot here. Come here. Probably stop right around here. We'll pick up here. We have to leave the opening so we can close. Okay? Let's go do it. I'll put a pin or two in. We're doing very close-up photography, so you see what we're doing, because that's the whole goal. Okay, I can feel it. I know it's there. If you're worried about that seam rolling, you can kind of scoot it so you want it to go that direction. This is just to keep my fingers out of the way. See, I can keep that flat right there. And I'm going to stop, make just a little pivot. And let's go ahead and stop probably right there. Let's back up, and we'll stop. Because we're creating that opening, right? Oh, let me cut my thread real quick. And then we'll just pick that up. I think if you left, you know, a couple inch opening, plenty. But wherever you start and stop, be sure to reinforce. So we're coming into that corner again. Several times. Okay. Now, while we're in close-up, we might as well just keep going here. This is working really well, actually. See, this is kind of sticking out, right? You don't want that. So you're going to trim that away. Kind of clip those corners. And just like we did before, how we kind of clip that, you can just make these snips in here. Don't go too deep, no, right? We don't want to cut our thread. This just makes it turn smoother and that lie a little flatter for you. We'll just keep going. Trim that off. Trim that little piece right here off. That, you get the idea. Hey, if we're gonna wear masks, right, we want them to be as comfortable as possible. And all the little steps do add up to just making a much more comfortable mask to wear. So now through our opening, we will go ahead and turn, and I'll go back to the main camera here because I want to grab a tool and I want to show you how there's one tool that's another one of my buddies in the sewing room. And that's a point turner, because as you can imagine, you know, you want those out. You want this turned out fully and have a nice crisp corner, so to speak. So let's find our opening and we'll just start turning through. And here it's coming out. It's always fun to see what it actually looks like put together. Hey, and if you're making masks for family, friend, community, leave us some feedback. We would love to hear who you're sewing them for. And, you know, it's just, what are you doing in your community? We all are jumping into this and we're happy. I think we're just excited to be a part of the solution. And, you know, we have all got big stashes of fabric, most of us. So it's fun to know that has a really great beneficiary right now. So I can only do so much to get those corners out, and that's where the clover point turner will get in there. And you see how that just made that corner happen? I can't get in there with my fingers. There's nothing I can really do to accomplish it. I like the point turner not only because it has a point, but when I'm doing an arc on a different type of project, maybe a circle, it has that nice end. So it's got a dual function on that. And I'll try to get that one pointed out and poked out really nicely as well. Again, just great little tools that you grab for. That's your go-to. All right, so this is our mask so far. So let's look at that. And this is where I like to just give it a good press. Now you've got your opening. As I kind of pull it, notice how the fabric just kind of naturally folds inside. I just kind of finger press that in there. And I look at it and say, okay, is that Is that line consistent? Is that about 1/4 of an inch? And it is. And then we just go ahead and press. So once we stitch around this, that will not only close that opening, but really kind of just secure the whole mask together, the front to back, knowing that it's reversible. It's not really front to back, but black to the white side. Give it a good press. Okay. At this point, I have to even find my opening because there it is. Okay, so we know we were using 1/4 seam allowance, right? So when we go ahead and sew the all the way around, it is less than 1/4 of an inch. We have to be less than 1/4 of an inch in order to capture all that fabric. So it's kind of just visually half of that distance. Is it important that you're right on the 1/4 of an inch sewing the mask together? Nope. Just be consistent. Whatever you do, be consistent with both sides of the mask. And again, the 1/8 of an inch, just get in the ballpark. And you can start anywhere. Now, hey, here's your chance. If you're buying the neutral piecing set, thread set, what I would actually do at this time is I would load the black thread into the top and leave the white in the bobbin for this side, because now the thread will show. So I will just, I want you to see what I'm doing. So I will leave the white thread in there, but I would absolutely switch to the black right now so that my white thread doesn't just kind of jump off there. But let's go ahead, just so you're seeing what I'm doing, and let's stay with the white. You get to that pivot point, stop, and just change direction. This is my opening right here. The other thing that's nice about the top stitching you're doing right now is it's also going back over that elastic. We're reinforcing that elastic just a little bit more because we don't want that to come out. Make a little pivot. There's the peak of the mask, I guess I would call it. And again, I make a little pivot there. And I'll just back stitch that. One of the things about the Creative Grid template that they show you is actually this pleat right here. And you can either wear the mask just like this, or if you want to go ahead and take a little bit of a pleat, what that does is it just kind of makes it fit just a little bit better. If you kind of imagine this just kind of having this little tuck in here, you can see how it just forms a little bit easier around the profile of the face. It's a personal preference. You might want to try the mask on just like this, and you might love it. But if you're like, no, it's kind of balloony on the side, then what you can do is I just take a little bit of a pinch and just fold it down. And it's about 1/4 of an inch. You can use the same pins if you want. You can use a Wonder Clip. I actually like the pins more than the Wonder Clip because I want the pin to stay in place. There's a lot of bulk going on right now, so I've been finding myself actually grabbing for the flower head pins. They're a longer pin and it's a flatter profile pin, and it can handle the bulk of what I've just created. So either one will work. I just think the flower head pins work a little bit better. Wherever this is on this side, you want to match it now on this side. So let's do that. So this is folded down, so I'm going to fold down. And again, that's about 1/4 of an inch, I believe. Let's put a pin in there. And let's look if that's about even. And I think that, actually I don't think that's even. You see how this is longer than this? I'm going to adjust that. I don't think I did a very good job with that. Let's try that one more time. Let's try that. Now I feel like it's more balanced left to right. Okay. Now you'll just go back over. This is again where probably using a coordinating thread is better, because you're going to see a lot of stitching here. I'm going to go back and forth across that a couple times. You don't want that to come undone. And then we'll cut our thread. If that was in the black, of course, it's much more camouflaged, I guess I'd call it. And we'll go repeat the same on the other side. And our mask is just about moments away from being done. I'll even put it on for you, show you how it fits. And again, we made the medium together today. I'm fairly petite at 5'3", so that might give you some reference of what's a good size to maybe start with based on how tall you are. All right, so I'll clean up some threads, remove some pins, and then we'll try this on, see what we think. And again, I encourage you, before you even put your pleat in, try it on, and that may also tell you how much of a pleat you want to take, if any at all. All right, so here's the cool thing. With this nice scoop, this was the mask we made before. Functional, it absolutely worked, but it also interfered with my glasses, right? I love the cutout of this because I can wear my glasses. See? So, isn't that great? It's a great mask, it's fun, and I've discovered, hey, if you're making the small size, check out the layer cakes. I'll do a quick little demo on a separate video of how you can use a layer cake, 40 10-inch squares to make 40 masks. That's amazing. It's an amazing value, and what's fun about that is no two masks will be alike. So if you are making masks for little ones, the smaller, just kids, it may be a fun way that they get to say, hey, Mom, can I wear the blue polka dot mask today? And tomorrow, can I wear the orange flower mask that day? So it may be a fun way, to be able to make a nice variety of masks in an economical way. But we'll go ahead and film that separately, and that'll be something that you can watch. But as you can see, Creative Grids has really done an awesome job of creating a template that puts a mask together that fits, and no matter what size, small to large, a mask that you can easily make and make them quickly. So thank you for giving me your time today. We'd love to hear your feedback. Who are you making masks for? What difference are you making in your community? I'll see you on the next Shabby Fabrics video.